Today, what I have done is, so far, is clean the oil pan inside and out, and especially the mating surfaces where it mates up to the block, and cleaned out all of the old oil and all of that. So that's nice and clean and ready for reinstallation when I get the pistons back in the block, and get the connecting rod ends torqued and that kind of thing. Right now, what I'm doing and what I've been doing is honing out the cylinders. Here is my honing tool, which I purchased from Harbor Freight. So might not be the best in the world, but it gets the job done, and it seems to be in pretty good shape. I checked the cylinders and they seem to be in pretty good shape even before the honing. But now that I've honed out the bottom three, I can definitely see a difference. I've kind of got that cross-cut look that you're looking for when you hone out the cylinder. So I still have the top one to do yet, and what I do, and this is nothing short of a messy job, but what I do is I stick my finger in a quart of oil and I coat the inside of the cylinder liberally with oil. Probably do it one more time. And then I also put some oil on the stones, the grinding stones on the honer, like so. So at this point you might as well take a bath in the oil. That's essentially what I'm doing. Like I said, there's nothing clean about this. All right, and then I close up the honing tool. It is, as you can see, spring loaded. And I close it up and insert it into the cylinder. And then what I do is I move it back and forth, putting that crosscut in marks, those crosscut marks into the cylinder. And I go. So I only let it come out of the top or out the bottom about 1/4 of an inch before I move it back in again. And that's good. And then I close up the spring-loaded arms again and pull it out and wipe it down with a towel. And then it is ready to go until it's time to put the new, the pistons with the new rings in them. So that'll be happening probably very soon. All right, today is piston reinstall day. I've got 3 of them in, and I thought I would walk you through the last installation and let you know how I go about doing that. First of all, of course, you need to put the new bearings in. I already have the new one in here, and basically it's just a cup that fits down into the half moon shaped part of the rod. And then this one is the rod cap, and I have the one in there, and you can see there's still a little bit of it sticking up off the edge, so I just take a small hammer and just lightly tap it into position, like so. Then I put liberal amounts of lubricant onto the bearing, because when you first start up this motor, you want everything to be nice and slick until you pick up oil pressure, which takes just a little bit. So we'll put a good amount on there, and then on the rod end like so. Okay, so that takes care of the bearing on the rod side and on the cap side. And now we need to go and put a bunch of the engine reassembly lube on the journal on the crankshaft. Okay, so here we are on the bottom of the motor, and you can see that the pistons and connecting rods are installed on the bottom. And now we'll take some engine lube and put on the last remaining journal that's sitting there all lonely and doesn't have a piston on it, or a connecting rod, I should say. So get that nice and lubricated. And then it's time to go to the other side and put the piston in the hole in the cylinder. Some people call it a hole. I call it a cylinder, a hole. But anyway, what I'm going to do first here is I'm going to put just a little bit of lubrication in there, and then I'm going to take a relatively clean rag and just kind of wipe out the cylinder to make sure that from when I honed the cylinder there was no gritty debris remaining. So wipe that out real good. Then I'm going to take my squirt can of oil and very liberally cover the cylinder walls with oil and wipe it all around real good. Not only is this necessary for when you start the motor, but also it is necessary to help the piston rings slide into the cylinder, and I can tell you that so far that has not gone easily. But here you can see the other side where these two pistons are, and then the other number one piston is down at the bottom. So now we'll lube up the piston rings, and we'll put the piston in the compressor. This is what I use, and I had to buy a new one of these because the other one just would not hold it tight enough to allow especially the oil rings, which are the first ones to go in, it would not hold those tight enough inside the piston to let the piston slide into the cylinder. So we'll do that now. Okay, so here we are on the top of the motor side. You can see the pistons that I already have in, and this one's down here. So I have everything lubed up. I've wiped out the cylinder just to make sure there's no debris left in there from the honing. I've got oil saturated around the piston and inside the rings. Just real quick to point out that the oil rings, which are the thin rings here, the first ones to try and enter the cylinder, those are the hardest ones to get compressed properly by the ring compressor, which I have here. They have a tendency, when they get right to the very lip of the cylinder, they have a tendency to slip out. So what I don't like to do is to rush and push that piston through the compressor and into the cylinder. It's just against how I feel about these things. You don't want to damage anything, but unfortunately these rings, and perhaps the kind of a edge to the, it's not a sharp edge to the cylinder, so the oil rings have a tendency to just have enough room to pop out there and stop it from going in. So I can't push that piston slowly into the cylinder. I have to really kind of rush it in there, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. But I think everything's ready to go ahead and put that, try and push that piston into the cylinder. Bingo. First try. How's that? So now we have all 4 pistons in the motor. Hoorah, hoorah. And now we'll go around to the other side and put the cap on the rod and tighten everything down. And I'll be ready, I think, to go ahead and torque the nuts that hold the piston rod cap to the piston rod itself. I think we'll be able to torque those. 35 foot-pounds is what we need. I wanted to do a test fit of the oil pan and get that back into position, and I'm going to show you in a minute or two here just how heavy, or describe to you how heavy this oil pan is, but it's heavy. And I ran into a little bit of a problem. I think I had mentioned earlier that I was going to replace the rear seal, and in the process, or because I have to remove this flange, I'm going to have to replace the rear seal as well. So I have those parts on hand, and I was going to wait to do that after I got the oil pan on and after I got the engine back sitting in an upright position. But I'm not going to be able to do that, and the reason why is that there is a gasket that goes underneath the front face of the oil pan, and because I'm restricted here from the bottom of the flange, I would have to slide this oil pan on, and that would not work because of the gasket down here at the bottom. It would push that forward as well. So what I'm going to have to do then is take the rear flange off, and in order to do that I've got to take that big bolt or nut off, and as you can see, that's got a couple of tabs that will hold that in place after the new seal is in place. But right now I've released those tabs, and in a rare moment for Sailing Nemo Charlie, I now get to demonstrate my massive strength and muscles. This nut is torqued on, but not to a specific setting. It just, the Moyer instructions say just to give it a real hard tug. So I'm going to give it a real hard tug in the other direction and see how easily or not this pops off. And it looks like it's going to be easier than I thought. A lot easier than I thought, or else I'm stronger than what I thought. One of the two. I think I'll opt for being stronger than what I imagined. Voila. And here's the little keeper ring, which is not going to come off as easy as the nut came off. But anyway, I'll take that off. And then, as you can see, this, by the way, this is a special tool that I got from Moyer that holds the shaft in place while I remove the nut. And then when I go to tighten it back up, I use the same tool to hold the engine in place while I torque the nut down. So anyway, that was easier than I thought it was going to be. And I'll go ahead and take this off now. So next step in accessing the, removing the flange and accessing the rear seal involves another special tool, this one, and this is the rear coupling, and you'll see once I get this off that the seal is located underneath, around this coupling. So with the special tool, you just screw it into the screw it through the special tool into the flange or the coupling, and then just slowly tighten the 3 nuts or bolts, and it will gently but surely remove the coupling. We'll go over like so, and this isn't going on smoothly now, and that's a good thing because this has to be pressed on using a special tool, which, as I say, I will show you once we get on the boat. But we do have the new seal in, and we're ready to go. So I wanted to just do a quick piece on the oil pan. There's a couple of things about this oil pan that are unique to my experience, having worked previously on automotive engines. But this thing weighs somewhere, I would guess, around 35 to 40 pounds. It is made of cast iron. And I never guessed it would be that bulky and weigh that much. But that's not just the oil pan. The entire motor is very well built and sturdy. It's built like a tank, and so I was very surprised at that. But it's no wonder that you can sit this motor upright and have the oil pan support it with all that weight. If I were to, when I think back to the automotive motors that I've worked on, if I were to sit the engine on top of the oil pan would probably just crush. So it's just kind of cool that this thing is built so sturdy and consequently heavy at the same time. Just to give you a little tour inside the motor before I put the oil pan back on, you can see the camshaft back there, obviously the crankshaft here. This is the oil filter before the oil goes into the oil pump and then distributed throughout the motor. Here are the gears that transfer the energy from the crankshaft to the propeller, And there is the transmission, which is called a reversing gear. I'm not too sure about that, but that's the forward, neutral, and reverse. And this is the gear shift handle here. And it is quite a simple and I would think unusual setup all in all. And of course it is a flathead motor. But I'm looking forward to getting it back together and getting it back in the boat. So we're going to clean up the flange of the oil pan, and the same on the engine side, the block side, and put the oil pan back on.